And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thanks so much for joining us once again on another news review. And it is great to have David Atherton join us once again to give us his wisdom on the week's news. David, always good to have you on.
Great to be here. And you're my favourite podcaster, as I say to all the girls.
You're too kind, David. It was great to catch up with you at that Advance UK
Was indeed.
conference. And that was a great day. We'll get into that with what has happened with Rupert and Restore. We now have Restore, Reform, Reclaim, Advance, and UKIP, I think, also are still there. And supposedly the Conservatives are still alive. So anyway, we'll touch on all that. But I want to put up this video that you had posted about Whitechapel, which is an area in East London, traditionally a very English area, and has now completely changed. And this is a group of Muslims demanding Christians don't have any rights to be a street preacher. But here's this 30-second clip.
Another religion.
Listen.
You can say there's a like Hyde Park. Hyde Park.
I hear you, but we don't have control.
And this is East London, this is Whitechapel, Bengali area also. Muslim area. He's offending our prophet.
No, I understand.
Insulting us.
I understand that you guys don't want to hear it. I would recommend that you just move away and don't listen to here.
Well, but we live here. But excuse me, we live here. So if we came outside,
you're not in his. He's not in your home.
No, by the end of the day, this is our community.
I would recommend you just move away and don't listen to him. I mean, I've never heard a police officer give such common sense advice, but his response, this is a Muslim area, we live here. We're seeing this more and more, aren't we, David, as we see the Islamization of Britain?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no doubt the lady police officer will be sent on a diversity course as a result for that one. I'll guarantee you that. Well, how do we unpack this? This is sheer religious and racist bigotry. You hear all these bloody Muslims go bang on about Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hate. That is, these people are crybabies. They are absolute hypocrites. How bloody dare you? My nan was born a mile from there in Spitalfields. And also where that place, looks like where Shelley's Food and Wine place is, it's literally 600 metres from the East London Central Mosque. So, we live here. I can trace my ancestry back in theory to somewhere around the 9th century in England. And on my mother's side, I documented to 1670. This is my country. Why should we have your damned accursed mosque in our country based on your own words there? How dare you? I take it you haven't read my piece yet, which I put out on X, where I say Britain becomes an Islamic state in about 2070, 2080. That's where we're heading. Congratulations to the police officer. I've actually seen other police officers in the area actually move on Christian preachers and threaten them with arrest for public order and things like that. That's the kind of thing you really expect from that. But I'm sorry, that is beyond the pale. The mask has slipped. Or if it's not, it's a mask off moment. It only goes to show you how bigoted and twisted so many of the Muslim communities in this country are.
Oh, exactly. And I think, I haven't read your piece, but 2070 does fit. I think Lord Pearson looked at 2065, 2070 in terms of the Islamic population going 10 times faster than the national population. So you put that out. And I guess this is becoming the norm. I was going to say this will become the norm, but sadly it is the norm for large parts of the UK, isn't it?
Oh, indeed, yeah. The basic problem we have, if you want the analysis of why they get away with so much of this, that, and the other, the basic reason is because the government is absolutely scared of language, Timothy. They're scared of the Muslim. They have a completely different culture to us. For example, You look at the grooming gang, all the Pakistani rape gang scandals that's happened over the last 30 years, where everybody in authority, even now the NHS, have turned a blind eye to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old girls being raped. An absolute cover up. Now, if that had been the other way round, it had been white men grooming and raping, Muslim women, they'd be held to pay for it. And a lot of Muslims have said, well, they wouldn't bother with the police. They go around the person's house and kill them, or certainly batter them to a greater extent. We have to face the. I saw a program about Richard Inman. He's a mate of Tommy Robinson's. And he was on with Leon Tufts, and he was saying when the Batley school teacher, grammar school teacher, he's still in hiding 4 years later. Produced an image of Muhammad, for his classroom, and other pupils objected to it. And the people who came out and was calling for his head were the people they thought were the moderates, the people they could do business with. But in fact, what really is happening is we have a culture in this country that does not fit in with enlightened Western liberal values. That they are ruled by their book, and let's face it. One of the duties of a loyal Muslim as part of the Ummah, the worldwide brotherhood of Muslims, is to form an Islamic caliphate under Sharia law. That's their job. That is what they are told to do by the Quran. If you look at some of them, I was told, I've read, there is more anti-Semitism in the Quran than there is in Mein Kampf.
Yeah, I've read that. Absolutely. Well, this is and one the US are facing more and more. And we have Islam thinking it's above the law and really is. Here's another area, an individual that thinks they're above the law, and that is Prince Andrew, and that is, or Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, as he is, because he's not a commoner, having that title stripped. And this is a picture of him after his release, after questioning on charges of misconduct in a public office. And this was the big story. We're recording this Friday, the big story on Thursday. So, and I've seen people say, isn't this good because the king is now actually not backing him, and the royal family, this hasn't affected them, and this happened without them knowing. This arrest is not for sexual charges, it's for passing information. But is it too little, too late? Is he being thrown under the bus and saving others? I mean, what were your thoughts whenever you saw this happening yesterday?
Well, indeed, yeah. Well, it sounds to me. I suppose we need to stress the point that Mountbatten-Windsor denies all the charges, and he's been arrested. He has been charged yet. So, but saying that though, it strikes me that there is a whiff that he's been a naughty boy. I think it was probably when he was trade envoy that he used his contacts and he passed on information. And things like that. Like Mandelson is accused of passing on information to Epstein as well, sort of thing. The first thing I want to ironically mention, you obviously featured one of my ex-posts there, and all those bloody lefties and Muslims are saying, "Oh, you never write about white nonces and things like that." Sorry, my Twitter feed's been wall to wall. I'm not accusing him of being the knots, but excuse me. But what I am saying is, he appears to be a naughty boy, and I'm very happy as a white person to expose him, and write about it and report on the news for that kind of thing. But well, the question, the two big issues for me on Epstein and Mountbatten-Windsor is it's like the grooming gangs. It's been going on for decades. This has probably got even centuries. The establishment have got away with this, and they have this ability to cover things up. We've never found out why Nick Brown left in a bit of a hurry in 2022. I've been told a couple of things, and they're not very nice. But this is the way the establishment, covers things up. At Stansted Airport, there were girls that Epstein was trafficking over to New York City. You know, if it wasn't, let's be honest, if it wasn't for the internet, we wouldn't know these things. And guess what? The government wants to clamp down on the internet, doesn't it? Yeah, it's when you're sort of a member of the public like me and you are, it's just so frustrating. These things, this abuse of people. Some of the allegations that are coming out from the papers, murders and things like that. It's absolutely appalling. No, it's like was it good for you with the woman who tragically died? Was it good for I think her name was. Oh, that's all very convenient, isn't it? I'm sorry, like Dr. David Kelly's death. That was all very convenient as well. How much does the establishment get away with? State-sponsored and private murder that goes unpunished. It just makes me so angry that this goes on, and there's not that much we can do apart from write a few well-aimed tweets and next posts.
No, exactly. And one of your posts with that picture was Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor converts to Islam and returns home from the police station to find all charges dropped. And I saw there's a Babylon Bee saying Prince Andrew joins UK Muslim rape gang so he can keep abusing young girls. And,
I haven't seen that one. I'm going to dig that one up.
But there's it is using humor and satire to point out the absurdity of allowing this type of thing to continue in plain sight. And of course, like with Mandelson, you had the government all coming out saying, "Oh, we're so shocked. We believed his lies." I guess we'll have King Charles coming out soon to say, "I believed Andrew's lies. I had no idea." And I would love to see everyone jailed, but I guess that will be the line that we see.
Well, indeed, yeah. My instinct is I don't think there will be any successful prosecutions. That's my instinct anyway. I suppose the publicity, and the process is the punishment that we can best hope for. But we all live in hope. Let's face it. Jimmy Savile got away with it, literally for decades. Rolf Harris eventually was caught. Stuart Hall, Gary Glitter. Eventually they were caught, but again, I think much of the publicity actually came via the internet, social media. That's where the outrage came, and people at the BBC and elsewhere were forced to face up the crimes that they committed. Jimmy Savile is probably the most egregious. Apparently it was an open secret, open secret with the BBC that he was a serial nonce. So no. I suppose there is an ability at the moment. There's some sort of not smugness, but happiness again is the wrong word, but contentment. That's the word I'm looking for. That some of the just desserts are being served up at the moment.
What are your thoughts for the US audience? Because I've been intrigued that so far the Epstein files have meant the downfall of two people, both British, Andrew and Peter Mandelson, and the Americans are calling for these two individuals to go and give evidence. I'm thinking, are there no Americans who are on that list? And yet it only seems to affect the two Brits. It's weird when you look at it, and I'm wondering why that has happened. And I know it's a Republican Democrat Punch and Judy show over stateside, but only two names, and they're both Brits, and they're the only ones thrown under the bus.
Excuse me. Do you know something, Peter? Obviously a bit brighter than me. That thought never crossed my mind. Of course, it bashed the Brits time, but Epstein was American. I don't know whether actually Ghislaine was British born, wasn't she? Whether she had an American passport, I don't know, but she's doing her 20 odd years, or however it is. Elon Musk has said on X that apparently Donald Trump's is not entirely innocent of association with Epstein. There is something I read which I won't repeat, but wasn't very nice what he did. So maybe it is the American establishment cover up over there. How people in America can get away with this scot free is completely bonkers. It's wrong. It's morally wrong. So I really hope that there is some movement in America whereby some of these people are hauled before a court, or at least arrested, interviewed, and what have we. And so some of the victims can get justice. It's just struck me the way the torture and the sexual abuse is on a par. It's probably just as bad as the Pakistani rape gangs in this country. It's just as bad. And hands up, they're all mostly white. Let's do it. This is the thing about people like ourselves, is we condemn everybody. We don't sort of deflect here and deflect there. And maybe maybe her mum and dad could have kept her under control a bit better and things like that. Excuse me. But no, I condemn them all, and I know they all need to go through the wood chipper, and afterwards be hung by piano wire from a lamppost.
Let's see if let's look at UK politics. I don't know if that's on the list. I think Rupert Lowe has it on his list in corporal punishment. I don't know if Ben Habib does. I don't know if Nigel does, but this is the huge debate, and that was the title on the right, Mission Impossible for the British Right, which was one of your articles. This was an interesting post in the left. Remember, Ben Habib was the only political leader to attend and speak at the United Kingdom event led by Tommy. Nigel, of course, hates Tommy, and Rupert didn't attend. But we've got Nigel Farage heading for number 10 with his party. And then you've got Ben Habib launching Advance UK, Rupert Lowe turning his movement into a party. How do you... I'm certainly politically homeless. I think you're probably just the same, intrigued by all of these, watching the sidelines. Give us your assessment of what on earth is happening.
Right. Well, I must say I'm in a state of despair at the moment. The way the British right is we're on a potential. We're snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I really can't see, unless some really bad scandals come up, I really can't see anything stopping reform having a working majority in the next election. Apparently, some of the smart money's on 2027, or 2027, where we could have a general election. Excuse me. Excuse me. Pardon me. But by 2029, we're definitely going to have to have one, and the Labour Party will just get worse and worse and worse. I think the green bubble will burst, and all Nigel has to do is, at the moment, and all Nigel has to do is just not coast, but keep his nose clean, and keep an eye on the BBC and the Guardian. Who's the latest person, sends out a hurty tweet. But the X factor here, of course, is restore and advance. If you want me to put my cards on the table, ideologically, I'm probably more Rupert and Ben than I am Nigel. But on realpolitik, I want an unashamed centre-right government, which is going to reverse immigration, going to stop immigration, and is going to sort out our £2.8 trillion debt. That's what I'm looking for. But sort of advance and restore could become like UKIP of the 2010s, where there's you get 1,000 votes or something like that, and that's the difference between winning and losing a seat. I think the bad blood between Nigel and Ben, Nigel versus Rupert, I think is that bad from what I've heard from insiders. Really, is that bad? All the bridges not only burn, but they've also taken the banks away as well. But really, you could probably Nigel could have given maybe 20 winnable seats, maybe 10 each, to restore and advance, on the basis that they take the 3-line whip in the House of Parliament. And there will be a vote on the, like, for example, repealing the cancelling out the Tony Blair 1998 Human Rights Act and moving the ECHR. Probably on issues like that, they probably will agree anyway. Then, of course, you got to deal with the Conservative Party as well. Nigel Farage has got so many of his balls up in the air, metaphorically, so to speak. It's going to fall apart, I think, in the long term. But where do we go? Where do we go from here? To my mind, if we don't have a working majority of a reasonably united right in the next election, this country really is done for.
Yeah, I agree. Really, and I share your despair, David, watching them all. I share your despair, and maybe you need to start a party. I mean, I'll happily splinter off from your party, David, and we can all have our own political party, each of us. Yeah. It's bonkers.
Well, Dave Atherton, let's invade Poland next week party.
Why not? Here is a clip from Nick Buckley, who was with us last week, and he is the Advance UK candidate for the by-election coming up. Here's just a clip of his video, just to let us know what is happening here in the UK. And of course, the by-election has all the focus on it because it's only one election. It's not 650 contests. It's one. And that's why this will be hard fought with Matt Goodwin running for Reform, who I think is probably one of the worst candidates they could have decided for that area. Right message, wrong man, I think. But here's a clip from Nick Buckley.
I lived in Gorton as a baby before moving to Longsight. I attended Stanley Grove Primary School and then Central High School for Boys at Bellevue, which was a challenge. I was a self-employed market trader, then got a job at Manchester Airport before working at Manchester Council to stop young people getting involved in crime. I was made redundant and used my payout to set up a charity to work on the streets with young people to ensure they were safe and thinking about their future. We uncovered sexual abuse many times and had offenders arrested. I also set up a project to get homeless people off the streets and into accommodation and then into jobs. I have worked across Greater Manchester, tackling antisocial behaviour and improving local communities. I have even advised Prime Ministers. Our late Queen recognised me for this work and awarded me an MBE in 2019. There is nothing special about me. I'm one of you. I want the best for my neighbours, my community and my country. The time for doing nothing is over. Stand up, chin up, shoulders back. You have already won the lottery of life. You were born English in England.
So that's just coming up, Gorton Denton up in Manchester in the northwest of England, coming up next week.
So that's a brilliant video. You haven't directed that and make a brilliant video.
Yeah, when we were at the Advance UK conference, when they showed their 3-minute video about what it means to be British, showing the history, and again, fantastically done. Some would say it's AI nonsense. I mean, that's all real footage. But I really like Nick. I've had him on numerous times, and he is salt of the earth guy. He actually wants to see grassroots change. He hasn't been parachuted in. That is his, and I think that's one of the key tick boxes for him. That is his area. He understands the local area in a world where we get politicians dropped in. I think he's the real deal.
Well, I think he should have. Theoretically, he should have been the Reform candidate.
Yep.
Maybe I would have thought he'd be home and hosed. He's known locally. He has done great work. Maybe some of his comments on ladies could have been better. I've had two bend in my ear. I said, "Well, now I'm not a member of Advance. I was just covering it. I was a journalist." But in fact, that's the point. Anyway, so no, I wish Nick well in his thing, but. He's probably he's probably going to get maybe 1,000 votes, maybe 2,000 votes, and apparently, the Muslim bloc vote is all voting green. Is all voting.
That's 30% Muslim, so that is a hell of a bloc vote.
I believe 30%
Yeah.
is the limit whereby if it goes above that, it's going to be a Muslim person, it's going to be the MP. That bloc vote is going. And also as well, one thing as well. Whilst I don't have any specific allegations for the Green Party, but all those postal votes, ballot harvesting, I think they call it in America. They go around old people's home and I'll take your vote in for you. Yeah, you're gonna be voting for that Hannah. What's her name? Spencer, or whatever her name is. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Put your tick there. I'll take it in for you. To my mind, I think a lot of Muslim constituencies this goes on quite a lot. And to my mind, I really do think postal ballots should be banned, except if you're a pensioner, or in most situations, But yeah, no, it'd be fascinating either way. It'd be see how many votes Labour don't get. Liberal Democrats, who are they? So it's a straight fight between the Greens and Reform, which is very, very interesting. So I should imagine probably the issue for Matt Goodwin is to try and get his vote out. That's basically it. Some of the polls I've seen, he was leading by 0.5%, but there's one I saw today. He's just slightly behind at the moment. So it's a 2-horse race. So all to play for. Another Islamic MP in Parliament.
What to add to the 24 or whatever we have, but I'm sure we'll be watching that, David, as political anoraks will be watching the results coming in.
We will be indeed, yeah. The edge of the seat stuff, isn't it?
We'll not make it up to Manchester, but we'll watch.
I've been asked to go up actually, but next week actually,
you might
by somebody from Reform. So
well, enjoy Manchester if you get up there.
No, well, I won't be. No, we got our drinks on Thursday, haven't we? So Tuesday, I've got to have an eye operation. So I'm not going out for a day and a bit, So no shame. Any other time I might have done it, but not to worry. But yeah, I personally speaking, I want a Reform victory. I want a Reform victory there. So all to play for.
Let me bring up this issue about local elections being cancelled and then uncancelled. And this was see, on the graphic I left a picture of Rupert there. Oh, that's my fault for not doing my graphics properly. And this is from the Guardian. Why Stormer's latest U-turn over local elections could be a gift for Reform. Ditching plans to delay votes in 30 English councils gives Nigel Farage a chance to capitalise on Labour unpopularity. And of course, Nigel was livid whenever, as many people would be, but he saw that he was getting victory snatched from him.
Yeah.
Those have been put back, so he is going to have the chance to decimate the Tories and go toe-to-toe with Labour. So the results of these are going to be fascinating, aren't they, David?
Well, indeed. I see Labour. I see Labour wipe out, and also I think most of the most of the councils are sort of in the shires rather than the inner cities. So yeah, I think it's bye care. Nice knowing you. Resignation letter, Monday morning at the latest, and then we have to worry about who's taking over next.
At least Angela Rayner, we could mock her more. And with Keir, it's just embarrassing. Well, no, she would be embarrassing. Actually, I don't know. Or Lammy, or
indeed, yeah. Well, the thing at the moment is that there's no such thing as a safe Labour seat anymore. Gorton Denton was always thought to be a safe Labour seat. No chance. So I really can see Labour the next general election down to 50 seats or even less.
Yeah.
But by the way, want to hear my conspiracy theory?
Absolutely, please tell me.
It's purely from my imagination. It's not based on any facts. It's pure speculation. But he's ramping up. I reckon the Labour Party might ramp up the war in Ukraine. So when it comes around the general election time, oh, we can cancel the general election and we can stay in power for a few more years. They did it with the local councils. Local councils was a test run, and they found some limp excuse to do that. But maybe they'll come up with one on the general election. Interesting.
Well, never let a crisis go to waste, especially if you've made the crisis yourself. So 100%. There was this. I want to bring up this in terms of the rape gangs, and I think it's important for us to remember, especially those who are not in the UK, that this is ongoing. And this was a post by a lady called Sarah, who's a survivor. And she says, "Today I finished my journey fighting for justice for the little girl I used to be. I'm also waiving my right to anonymity again. 11 years ago, I gave my first ever video interview about what happened to me with the Rotherham grooming gangs. It's been one long road. In the last 2 years, I've been involved 3 trials at Sheffield Crown Court. And today I finished my last trial and secured 125 years of justice." These trials are certainly, you could probably see 2 a month that appear. It is never ending. And it is good to see a good news story, some kind of justice, although it does not make up for anything that's happened. I wish it was also financial justice, but sadly, these girls don't get any financial justice unless they fight for it on top of this. But I guess it's a more positive story.
Well, it is, yes. Sarah Wilson, she's quite open about her anonymity. She's left that behind, and she's quite happy to be identified. So we spoke over DM as well. So no, we wish her well. And and apparently, as I saw her being interviewed today on GB News, funny enough, with Charlie Peters and Miriam and Cates, and it was one of the things she said was she looked at that Hussein guy straight in the eye. His eyes were dead. He has not a single stroke of remorse for what he did, and she described him as an evil man as she read out her victim impact statement. These people are just subhuman. Absolute scum. The thing is, with a lot of these rapists, the Pakistani rapists, they generally don't think they've done anything wrong. I think it's 424 in the Quran, whereby 423 describes all the people you can't have sex with, and on 424 it describes people you can have sex with, and it includes women your right hand possesses, which basically means say any non-Muslim lady you're allowed to do it. There was a judge, Tina Landau, in a case that goes back to 2022, jailed one guy for 33 years. I thought that's a real 33 years. That's a real sentence for rape. And I say only. He only raped two girls, 14 and 15, for a couple of years. And she said, said to the guy, Mohammed, funnily enough, oh, what a strange old name, isn't it? And she actually said in plain English, you have shown no remorse. You don't think you've done anything wrong. Sorry, that culture we don't want in this country.
No, we don't. And this was from the BBC. It wasn't something you posted, but I know the Mayor of London has said, of course, this is not happening in London. It's happening in 40 towns around the UK, but no, it wouldn't be in London. And the BBC and others are beginning to now report what has been happening. And it's. I mean, Sadiq Khan is Teflon in getting away with so much. I don't know how he'll be able to get away with denying this and ridiculing. I mean, when Susan Hall asked it, she was ridiculed by him. And I hope that actually he is punished for turning a blind eye.
Khan needs to be, metaphorically hung, drawn, and quartered publicly for his complete cover-up and denial of yet more, thousands of more British girls who have been raped and abused and tortured by mainly Muslim men. Does this guy not have any shred of decency? does he not have any sense of this is wrong, and I should be doing my job here? You know, I've been cheering on everybody when it comes to Mountbatten and Gary Glitter and Jimmy Savile. I've been cheering on the police. You know, Rolf Harris when they were pursued, and Hugh Edwards as well. You know, he got a bloody suspended sentence as well.
Yep.
Absolutely appalling. You know, I'm even about this. They all should be. All should be dealt with in the harshest of manners. And when Khan is effectively covering up for his own community, that's absolutely disgusting. He should not be holding any public office. There should be a stain on his character to the day he goes to his grave.
But at least, David, and I'll play this little clip. At least we have Ramadan lights. Here's a little clip from what Sadiq had.
Get my day up.
Let me show some of this.
4 years ago, we were the first city in the Western world to host a Ramadan lights display. 3, 2, 1! And tonight, once again, London is shining bright as a beacon of hope, unity, and inclusivity. Ramadan is a sacred time. It's a time to recommit to our faith, give to those in need, and reflect on the challenges faced by those less fortunate than ourselves. Every year, we see incredible acts of kindness and generosity from our Muslim brothers and sisters, taking care of the vulnerable and fundraising for charitable causes. And I know this month will be no different. I want to say thank you to Muslim Londoners for all you do during Ramadan and all year round to make London the greatest city in the world. Our city's diversity is beautiful. The Quran says, and of his signs is the creation of...
Right, enough of that. Sorry, I feel sick. So it's obviously he is pushing an agenda and to turn a blind eye to girls getting raped. But hey, at least I put up some lights on the main street in London. Let's all focus on that and ignore the gruesomeness. And I don't know how often he thanks Christians in London for what they do. Maybe it's just Islam. I don't know.
Well, also he put those lights up the day before Lent, didn't he?
Yes.
On Shrove Tuesday.
Yes.
So you know, where are my Lent lights as well?
Yeah.
I look upon the Quran as all basically plagiarism of the Bible and the Torah. They nicked all the main characters: Jesus, Moses, Abraham. You know, Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the Torah is Lot. Jesus was a prophet of Islam. You know, in fact he was born 600 years before Islam was established. You know, don't insult my intelligence. You know, you can obviously see his cultural bias there, and his contempt for the British culture and the British way of life. You know, for heaven's sake, the 1535 Succession Act actually makes by law Christianity the state religion. You know, I'm sorry, you should be doing that. You know, I think 15% of London's population is Muslim, which means say that 85% aren't, and probably the vast majority, probably at least 50% are going to be Christians. I want my Lent lights, and I want them to be shining brightly. Yeah, it's like Lent and Ramadan. Again, it's another sort of plagiarism of the Quran. It's 40 days, 40 nights when Jesus was in the wilderness and he was tempted by Satan, and we're all expected to give up something for Lent. Sacrifice ourselves, for Lent. Muslims decide not to eat during from daylight to dusk. And whilst we give up smoking or give up, I'll never give up smoking. But you know what I mean. I think I might give up broccoli for Lent. That's probably about as far as I'm going to go. Broccoli and Brussels sprouts.
But it's true. Lent's about giving up and self-sacrifice, where Ramadan actually is about feasting and less fasting. It's about how much you can eat, and it's weird how they twist it. There was we might do two more. This video I I did enjoy, and it shows how Islam also is against animals. And this is a wonderful female Islamic scholar you came across, David, and it's
Wonderful.
wonderful to learn from her wisdom. So let's listen to her wisdom for a minute.
Do you know that having dogs in your home without any valid reason causes you to lose huge amounts of rewards daily and also keeps angels away from your home? Prophet Muhammad SAW warns us about this in an authentic hadith, saying, whoever keeps a dog, except for herding, hunting, or farming, will have 2 qirats of good deeds deducted every day. And it is said that a qirat is equivalent to a huge mountain. So if you're losing 2 qirats, that means you're losing 2 mountains daily. And it gets worse. Prophet Muhammad SAW also said that no angel will enter a home with a dog inside. Imagine your home where you pray, make dua, and seek blessings. Angels stay away from because of a dog. Islam teaches us to be kind to animals, but also follow guidance. So if you or anybody that you know owns a dog without any valid reason, think twice. Share this so others can learn.
I wouldn't like to lose 2 mountains. I don't know. What the hell? What? Have you any comments on that, David?
It just strikes you. It just comes across as a brainwashed cult, doesn't it? You know, what is wrong with Fido? You know,
and you put this up, which I thought kind of fits well with that. with Ricky Gervais. I don't know if he used that slogan to connect with the Islamic hit of dogs, but maybe that could be a slogan for Restore or Advance UK. I don't know.
well, sounds like as an idea, isn't it? I think you might have to lose the F word, but you know, apart from that, you know, great ad. You know, I'm obviously a Photoshop, but obviously never allow that to be on London Underground at all. But no, fine, okay. I'm sort of the libertarian side of me says, well, fine. If you want to believe that, that's up to you. But the thing with a lot of people like that is they want to impose that on us. No, it's like, for example, Camden was going to have this poll or consultation document about banning dogs from certain areas of a park in Camden. To be fair, most of the ones I've investigated where they say Muslims have banned dogs from certain parts, they're not true. It's photoshopped or it's people causing trouble. But you can just see, it's going to be creeping along, isn't it? Maybe we have an area just purely for dogs, and there will be places like Tower Hamlets bans on dogs. In fact, I might look into that actually. There's a park they renamed. I think it was 1998. Something like Actor Park. It's literally about half a mile from the border of the City of London, And I wonder if there's I've passed it. I don't remember seeing any signs, but maybe we can take a pooch or two and see how far we get.
That's an idea. That could be definitely a fun video. Let's finish off with something a little bit more sensible. It's Tommy. He has eventually got in to the US, and he put out. I'll just play a little bit of this clip of him just arrived over there just like a day ago, I think.
That's right, I'm in the United States of America. Can you see how happy I am? It's been a long time coming. I've dreamed about this moment for so long. In 2017, I was given an invite by 10 members of Congress to come and visit here and talk about the decline in free speech in Britain, which now the entire world knows about. But back then, 45 British MPs wrote to the American Embassy in London and they blocked my travel. 45, that's 3 times as many MPs.
I'll not play the whole thing for time. I'll encourage you to go and watch it. But I'm really happy for him that he is over there. He is a absolute voice of reason. And I saw him shaking the hands of General Flynn arriving there, and I'm sure he'll be meeting many others. I hope they let him back into the UK. I don't know, or maybe he should stay there and seek asylum. I don't know.
Well, actually, that's a bit of a raw comment. That is
Yeah.
actually. I've been choose your words carefully. Don't identify anybody. But I've been feeding stuff to the Americans on our free speech
Yeah.
on at least a weekly basis, 2 or 3 times a week. And I was told if they ever nick you again, we'll see what we can do. So I'll be bit cagey on that one. But yeah. Well, it's like for example, I look upon Rupert Lowe's rape inquiry. That to Labour, that's death by 1,000 cuts. You know, it's began every day. There's been bulletins. You know, some shocking revelations. Some I didn't know about being trafficked to Pakistan came out. But then you have all the Brits in this country who are absolutely shocked at Starmer's complete lack of empathy for free speech and what have we. And so they were fine. You know, so we're going to pass on all your outrages to America. And I've done my fair share, believe you me. And I think at the moment Trump will explode at Starmer.
Yeah.
And I think in fact he might even bring about his downfall if he turns around and say, look, I've got no confidence in Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. I don't want to deal with him. I don't want to deal with his government. He could probably really do him over if he wanted to. And I would, by and large, welcome that. The only thing I don't like, if it was the other way around, if there was a Reform Prime Minister, Nigel Farage, and an American Democrat said, use the same tactics against Nigel Farage, excuse me, I'd probably object to that. But yeah, the Americans are genuinely shocked that you can go to jail like Lucy Connolly for 31 months for a tweet that she deleted soon afterwards.
Yeah,
absolutely awful. And their First Amendment, it's bulletproof. Pardon the pun, but it's bulletproof. And even when it comes to libel, you can generally get away with, it's my personal opinion. So and so's a nonce, or so and so's a whatever predator, sexual predator. If it's an opinion, you can even get away with that. Maybe that's probably a bit too far, but as a generalisation, in the knockabout world of politics, people will be name calling, and the thing I want to get rid of in this country is the Online Safety Act, and that's been one of my focuses. While I've been liaising with people in America on this one, that has to go, and Ofcom has to go. If I was the Prime Minister, I'd just get rid of the whole bloody lot of them. All this. Of course, no one wants child pornography or abused children or images of that. Of course, nobody wants that. But it's just a smokescreen, just to tinker around with the whole of social media, particularly X, to get the result they want.
It is. This is not about protecting children. It's about shutting down dissent and debate and conversation. Dave, it's always good having you on. Thank you so much for giving us your thoughts on all of those news stories.
Thank you very much. And sorry, I'm just getting over a bad cold at the moment, so excuse the coughing.
Oh, no, thank you. And I'll just leave the viewers with two, I think you had put up two different. There we have the new superhero, U-turn man, Keir Starmer. That's what we have here in the UK. And let me put up the final one, which is, let me see if I can find it, which was actually, you didn't put up, it was on the, as a reply to, you think, on one of your tweets. Embarrassment as Mountbatten-Windsor makes arresting officer for birthday stripogram. You could just see that happening. You really could. But David, thank you so much, and please do get over your cold.
Thank you a lot, Peter. I'll see you
at least
soon.
until we meet up next week for a drink. Get over your cold.
Yes, it's a week yesterday, isn't it? So I'll catch you then.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.